The legend everyone cheered, until the truth refused to stay buried. What if I told you one of the greatest players in NBA history built a Hall of Fame legacy on the court, while carrying a secret that still divides basketball fans decades later? What if the man known as the Mailman delivered almost everything a franchise could ever ask for except peace with his own path? And what if the numbers that made him immortal are no longer the first thing people remember when they hear his name? For nearly 20 years, Karl Malone looked untouchable. Every season he showed up. Every night he dominated. Defenders couldn't stop him. Coaches admired him. Teammates relied on him. Fans believed they were watching one of the toughest competitors the league had ever seen. More than 36,000 career points. 2 NBA MVP awards. 14 All-Star appearances. 2 Olympic gold medals. A place among the NBA's 75 greatest players. On paper, his resume looks almost flawless. But history has a strange way of rewriting itself. Because today, when Karl Malone's name trends online, basketball highlights aren't always what people talk about first. Instead, conversations quickly turn toward painful questions. Shocking allegations from decades ago, broken family relationships, and decisions that many believe permanently changed the way his legacy should be viewed. For some fans, he's still one of the greatest power forwards to ever touch a basketball. For others, his accomplishments can never outweigh the controversy that followed him long after the final buzzer. How does a man climb from deep poverty in rural Louisiana to become one of the biggest stars in professional sports, only to watch his reputation become one of the most debated in NBA history? That's exactly what we're uncovering today. This isn't just the story of incredible basketball greatness. It's the story of triumph colliding with controversy, of records that may never be broken, and choices that can never be erased. It's the story of championships that slipped away, relationships that fell apart, and a legacy that continues to spark fierce debate every time his name appears in the headline. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Karl Malone remains one of the most complicated figures the NBA has ever produced, and why his story is far bigger than basketball itself. Before we dive into everything, let me know where you're watching from today. Drop your city, state, or country in the comments. I love seeing how far our NBA community reaches around the world. And if you enjoy deep NBA stories, behind-the-scenes drama, and the untold truth behind basketball's biggest legends, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next breakdown. Now, here's something fun before we continue. Press 1 if you believe Karl Malone should always be remembered primarily for his basketball greatness. Press 2 if you believe a player's legacy should always include what happened off the court. Your answer might completely change how you see the rest of this story. Built by hardship, forged for greatness. Long before Karl Malone became one of the most feared power forwards in NBA history, he was simply a boy trying to survive in one of the poorest parts of Louisiana. Summerfield wasn't the kind of place where NBA dreams were supposed to grow. Opportunities were scarce, money was even scarcer, and every day demanded hard work just to make it through. Raised by a single mother alongside 8 siblings, Malone learned early that nobody was going to hand him anything. His father wasn't there to guide him. The relationship barely existed, and when Karl was just 14 years old, his father took his own life. It was a tragedy. Malone kept private for years, carrying the emotional weight long before the world knew anything about it. Instead of talking about pain, he buried himself in work. Life on the family farm became his first training ground. He chopped trees, hunted for food, fished to help feed the family, and spent countless hours doing physically demanding labor. Those weren't workouts designed by elite trainers, they were necessities of survival. But without realizing it, they were building an athlete unlike any other. That relentless work ethic eventually became his greatest weapon. While other players struggled with injuries or fatigue, Malone developed a reputation for being nearly indestructible. Throughout 18 seasons with the Utah Jazz, he never missed more than 2 games in a single season. Night after night, year after year, he answered the bell. The nickname the Mailman wasn't created because it sounded cool. It stuck because Karl Malone always delivered. His dominance began even before college. At Summerfield High School, Malone led his team to 3 consecutive state championships, proving he wasn't just another talented teenager, he was becoming a force of nature. College recruiters quickly noticed, although powerhouse programs wanted him, Malone chose Louisiana Tech, staying close to home and to the family that had sacrificed so much for him. The beginning wasn't easy. Academic struggles forced him to sit out his first year, a setback that could have derailed many careers. Instead, it fueled him even more. When he finally stepped onto the court, he averaged nearly 19 points and over 9 rebounds per game, leading Louisiana Tech to one of the best seasons in school history. NBA scouts started paying attention. Still, many underestimated him. In the 1985 NBA Draft, 12 teams passed on Karl Malone before the Utah Jazz selected him with the 13th overall pick. Looking back now, it's almost impossible to imagine so many franchises overlooking a player who would eventually become one of the greatest scorers basketball has ever seen. Utah had just found the cornerstone of its future. But while the basketball world was celebrating the arrival of an extraordinary talent, another story had already begun years earlier, a story that would remain hidden for decades before eventually changing everything people thought they knew about Karl Malone. The secret that changed everything. By the time Karl Malone arrived in Salt Lake City, he looked like the perfect franchise cornerstone. The Utah Jazz had found a relentless competitor, a tireless worker, and a young star ready to dominate the NBA for years to come. Fans saw a humble kid from Louisiana chasing greatness. Teammates saw an unstoppable force in the paint. The league saw one of the biggest steals of the 1985 NBA draft. What almost nobody saw was that a life-changing controversy had already begun years before he ever played his first NBA game. While Malone's professional career was taking off, a deeply personal chapter remained hidden from the public. It dated back to his college years at Louisiana Tech and would later become the defining controversy surrounding his legacy. As details gradually became public over the years, they fundamentally changed how many fans viewed one of basketball's greatest players. For years, Malone focused almost entirely on basketball. His numbers exploded almost immediately. Every season, he became stronger, smarter, and more dominant. Defenders bounced off his powerful frame. Coaches struggled to find ways to slow him down. Opposing teams knew exactly what was coming, yet they still couldn't stop it. At the center of everything stood one man, John Stockton. Together, Stockton and Malone created perhaps the greatest pick-and-roll combination the NBA has ever witnessed. Their chemistry bordered on telepathic. Stockton knew exactly when Malone would cut toward the basket. Malone knew exactly where the pass would arrive. It looked simple, but no team could consistently stop it. Season after season, the victories piled up. The Jazz transformed from a respectable franchise into a legitimate championship contender. Malone became the face of the organization, earning all-star selections almost every year while establishing himself as one of the league's most reliable superstars. To fans watching every night, the mailman delivered exactly as promised. But as his basketball reputation continued to rise, questions about his personal life never completely disappeared. They remained largely outside the national spotlight for years, allowing his accomplishments on the court to dominate the conversation. Eventually, though, the past would catch up. And when it did, many people began asking whether extraordinary athletic achievements should ever be separated from the actions and decisions made away from basketball. That debate continues even today. A career defined by greatness and one missing trophy. If greatness were measured only by statistics, Karl Malone would sit comfortably among basketball's untouchable legends. He finished his career with more than 36,000 points, ranking among the greatest scorers the game has ever seen. He won 2 NBA MVP awards during an era dominated by Michael Jordan, something very few players could claim. He became an 11-time first-team All-NBA selection and represented the United States on 2 Olympic gold medal-winning teams. Every accomplishment strengthened his reputation. Then came 1,997. The Utah Jazz enjoyed the greatest regular season in franchise history, winning 64 games behind the incredible partnership of Malone and Stockton. Salt Lake City believed its first championship was finally within reach. Standing in their way was Michael Jordan. The NBA Finals became a battle between 2 completely different basketball worlds. On one side stood Chicago's dynasty. On the other stood a small market team determined to prove it belonged among the league's elite. The series was unforgettable. Malone played outstanding basketball, but Jordan somehow found another level when everything was on the line. The Bulls won in 6 games, leaving the Jazz heartbroken but determined to return. 1 year later, they did exactly that. The 1,998 Finals gave Utah another opportunity to rewrite history. Instead, it produced one of the most iconic moments the NBA has ever seen. With less than 20 seconds remaining in Game 6, Utah held a 1-point lead. Malone caught the ball in the post, looking ready to make the play that could extend the series. Then Jordan struck. He stole the ball cleanly, raced down the floor, and hit what many consider the most famous jump shot in basketball history. In a matter of seconds, another championship disappeared. For Malone, it became the defining image of his playing career, not because of everything he achieved, but because of the one prize that always escaped him. One last gamble and a legacy that still divides fans. After 18 unforgettable seasons in Utah, Karl Malone faced the hardest decision of his career. Stay loyal to the franchise that made him a legend, or chase the championship that had eluded him for nearly 2 decades. He chose one final gamble. In 2003, Malone joined the Los Angeles Lakers, accepting a much smaller contract for one reason only: winning an NBA title. On paper, the roster looked unstoppable. Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Gary Payton, Karl Malone. Many believed the championship was already decided before the season even began. Reality told a different story. Injuries disrupted Malone's season, chemistry problems surfaced inside the locker room, and the heavily favored Lakers fell to the Detroit Pistons in one of the biggest upsets in NBA Finals history. His final opportunity had slipped away. Months later, Malone retired without ever winning the championship that had defined his pursuit for so many years. The honors continued to arrive after retirement. His jersey was retired by the Utah Jazz. He entered the Basketball Hall of Fame. Statues were built. His accomplishments remained undeniable, yet the conversation surrounding his legacy became increasingly complicated. For many basketball fans, Karl Malone will always be remembered as one of the greatest power forwards ever to play the game. For others, discussions about his career inevitably include the controversies that emerged beyond the basketball court. Perhaps that's why his story remains one of the most debated in NBA history. It reminds us that athletic greatness and personal legacy are often judged by very different standards, and that history has a way of examining both. When the spotlight turned away from basketball, for years, Karl Malone's identity was almost inseparable from the numbers he produced on the hardwood. Fans argued about where he ranked among the greatest power forwards of all time. Analysts broke down his impossible consistency, and opponents respected the relentless physicality that defined his game. But as the years passed, a different conversation began to dominate. It wasn't about points. It wasn't about MVP trophies. And it certainly wasn't about the pick and roll that made Utah one of the NBA's most successful franchises. Instead, attention increasingly shifted toward Malone's personal history and the difficult questions surrounding his past. As information that had once received relatively little national attention resurfaced through documentaries, interviews, podcasts, and social media, a younger generation of fans encountered a version of Karl Malone they had never known. Many people who admired his basketball career suddenly found themselves wrestling with a complicated reality. Could someone be celebrated as one of the greatest athletes in history while also facing intense criticism for actions away from the game? There was no simple answer. The debate spread far beyond basketball circles. Some believed his accomplishments on the court should remain part of NBA history, regardless of anything else. Others argued that personal conduct should always be considered when evaluating a public figure's legacy. Every time Malone appeared at an NBA event or was honored by a league ceremony, the discussion returned with even greater intensity. For decades, the mailman had controlled the conversation through his performances. Now, the conversation was controlling his legacy, and there was no game-winning shot capable of changing it. The championship that never came. Every legendary career has one defining image. For Michael Jordan, it was raising another Larry O'Brien trophy. For Kobe Bryant, it was celebrating with confetti falling around him. For Karl Malone, many fans still picture the final moments of the 1,998 NBA Finals. A single possession, a single steal, a single jump shot, that sequence became symbolic of an entire career. Despite everything Malone accomplished, one achievement always remained just out of reach. He finished with more than 190 playoff games without winning an NBA championship, a statistic that continues to stand among the most remarkable in league history. The frustration only grew after joining the Lakers. On paper, the roster looked unstoppable. Future Hall of Famers surrounded him. Analysts predicted another championship parade for Los Angeles before the season even began. Instead, injuries slowed Malone at the worst possible time. Internal tension distracted the team. Chemistry never fully developed. When the heavily favored Lakers met the Detroit Pistons in the NBA Finals, the basketball world expected a quick series. Detroit had other plans. The Pistons outworked, outplayed, and outlasted the star-studded Lakers, ending Malone's final realistic opportunity to capture the one accomplishment that had defined his pursuit for nearly 2 decades. When he retired shortly afterward, the statistics were extraordinary. The championship column remained empty. For some players, greatness is measured by ring. For others, it is measured by impact. Karl Malone's career continues to challenge where that line should be drawn. Can time rewrite a legacy? Retirement brought something Karl Malone had rarely experienced during his playing days: silence. The roaring arenas disappeared. The nightly pressure faded. The headlines became less about basketball and more about reflection. Over time, reports described efforts to reconnect with family members and repair relationships that had been fractured for years. Those moments did not erase the past, but they suggested an acknowledgement that some opportunities cannot be measured by wins, losses, or award. Malone himself has publicly admitted that there were situations he did not handle the right way. For many observers, those comments represented an important step. For others, they arrived far too late to change how they viewed his legacy. That divide remains today. Whenever basketball fans rank the greatest power forwards in NBA history, Karl Malone's name almost always appears near the very top. His production, durability, and consistency are impossible to ignore. Yet almost every discussion eventually reaches the same crossroad. Can extraordinary athletic achievement ever be separated from personal history? Or does the complete story require both to be remembered together? Perhaps that's why Karl Malone continues to be one of the NBA's most fascinating and controversial figures. His career forces basketball fans to confront difficult questions that extend far beyond sports. The records will always remain. The debates probably will too. The legacy that basketball will never settle. Today, decades after Karl Malone played his final NBA game, his name still sparks some of the most passionate debates in basketball. Unlike many legends whose careers are remembered almost exclusively through championships or unforgettable highlights, Malone's story has evolved into something much more complicated. Statistically, his place among the all-time greats is secure. Few players have ever matched his combination of scoring, durability, consistency, and longevity. More than 36,000 career points, 14 All-Star appearances, 2 MVP awards, 11 straight first-team All-NBA selections, nearly 2 decades as the face of one franchise. Those accomplishments alone would normally guarantee an untouchable legacy, yet history rarely judges people by numbers alone. As the NBA entered the social media era, discussions surrounding Malone's personal history reached a much wider audience. Fans who had never watched him play suddenly learned about the controversies that had followed him for decades. Podcasts, documentaries, sports shows, and online discussions reignited conversations that many believed had been forgotten. The result was a dramatic shift in public perception. For older fans who grew up watching Malone dominate every night, he remains one of basketball's greatest competitors, a player whose relentless work ethic defined an era of NBA basketball. For many younger fans, however, the first thing they associate with Karl Malone isn't his unstoppable mid-range jumper or his legendary partnership with John Stockton. Instead, it's the off-court controversies that continue to generate criticism whenever his name appears in the news. Neither perspective completely erases the other. His basketball greatness remains undeniable. The controversies remain impossible to ignore. That's exactly why his story continues to divide opinions, unlike almost any other Hall of Famer. Every honor he receives is celebrated by some and questioned by others. Every appearance at an NBA event generates both admiration and criticism. Every ranking of the greatest power forwards inevitably turns into a larger discussion about what legacy truly means. Perhaps that's the most remarkable part of Karl Malone's story. Even years after retirement, people are still arguing not about whether he was talented, but about how history should ultimately remember. Because sometimes the hardest legacy to evaluate isn't the one with the fewest accomplishments. It's the one with the greatest contradictions. More than a basketball story, Karl Malone's life reminds us that greatness is rarely simple. On one side stands one of the most accomplished basketball careers the NBA has ever witnessed. A relentless competitor who transformed the Utah Jazz into perennial contenders, shattered scoring records, earned countless individual honors, and inspired an entire generation of power forwards. On the other side stands a personal history that continues to provoke difficult conversations about accountability, responsibility, and how public figures should ultimately be remembered. Both realities exist. Neither can completely erase the other. Perhaps that is why Karl Malone's story continues to resonate decades later. It isn't simply about basketball anymore. It's about how success, fame, and achievement never place someone beyond public reflection. Records may stand for generations, but character is often examined just as closely as statistics. For athletes, the lesson is clear. Talent can open every door imaginable. Discipline can build a legendary career. But the decisions made away from the spotlight often become just as important as the victories achieved under it. For fans, Malone's story offers another reminder. Sports heroes are still human beings. They can inspire millions with extraordinary performances, while also making choices that lead to lasting criticism. Recognizing athletic excellence doesn't require ignoring difficult truths, just as acknowledging controversy doesn't erase remarkable accomplishments. History has room for both. In the end, Karl Malone will always remain one of the most fascinating figures in NBA history. Not because his story is perfect, but because it forces every basketball fan to think more deeply about what legacy really means. Is greatness defined only by championships, awards, and records? Or is it also shaped by the choices a person makes when the cameras aren't rolling? That question doesn't have an easy answer, and perhaps it never will. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the NBA's most unforgettable stories, make sure to subscribe for more in-depth basketball documentaries, legendary player breakdowns, trade news, and untold NBA stories every week. Don't forget to like this video if you found it insightful, and share it with another NBA fan who loves basketball history. Finally, let us know your opinion in the comments. Press 1 if you believe Karl Malone should primarily be remembered for his basketball achievement. Press 2 if you believe a player's off-court actions should carry equal weight in defining their legacy. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next NBA story.